In this lesson, we're going to first create this simple spinning logo animation. Then I'm going to show you how to render or export compositions from After Effects with transparency or with an alpha channel, so there will be no background. So first, I'll show you how to render transparency using the render queue. I will then show you the exact same process of exporting compositions with transparency using Adobe Media Encoder. And also in Adobe Media Encoder, I will show you how you can export animated GIFs. First, I'll create a new composition. I'll call it 3D Logo. I'll click the preset menu. I'll choose the social media square. Just for fun, I'll select the Eyedropper Tool, select the orange for my logo, click OK. Now we know the background color is not going to be rendered. If I click on the toggle transparency grid, I can confirm that this is going to be a transparent background. I'll go to the project panel, select my logo, drag it onto the composition. I'll hold the shift key so it snaps in the center. I'll select the layer and tap S for the scale property. Now I can scale up or down. If you want to make the bounding box a little more visible, you can just go down to the layers panel, click on the color swatch for the label, and just choose any color you want. To make a layer 3D in After Effects, go down to the layers panel and first make sure that you see the switches. Now there are several ways that you can turn on switches. You can click on the icon in the very bottom left corner of the layers panel. You can also click on the button, toggle switches and modes. You can right click in the header, go to columns, and just make sure that switches is checked. Or a great keyboard shortcut to remember is F4. So F4 will enable switches. And the only thing you have to do to put a layer into 3D space is just go to the column where you see that little cube, that's the 3D layer icon, and just tick the box. Then you will see this little gizmo indicating that this layer is in 3D space. And if I toggle open the layer, you'll see we have these additional groups here. If I toggle off 3D, now I'm only seeing the transform property. When I toggle on 3D, we get these additional groups. And if we open up the transform properties, you'll also see some additional properties. So we have orientation. Now we're seeing X, Y, and Z rotation. So if I toggle off 3D, now we have the standard transform properties. Toggle on, you'll see we get these additional transform properties. Now I can animate this using keyframes by dragging the CTI to the beginning of the timeline. Click on the stopwatch for the Y rotation. That's going to add a keyframe at the beginning. I can go to the end of the timeline. By putting 1 in this first position, that's saying that I want to rotate the logo a full 360 degrees. And if I tap the spacebar, you'll see we have a simple animation of this logo rotating on the Y rotation in 3D space. And just for practice, I'll show you that we can create this exact same animation using the time expression. So I'll click the stopwatch for Y rotation. That's going to delete all of the existing keyframes. I'll press Option or Alt, then click on the stopwatch next to the Y rotation property so we can enter an expression. I'll type in time, asterisk. I'm going to put a parentheses as we're going to put a little equation here. Now I want to rotate a full 360 degrees. I'll put / for divide and then put 10 as this timeline or my composition is 10 seconds long. I'll click outside and put a semicolon to end that line. And now when I tap the spacebar, you'll see we have the identical animation. And if this animation is moving a little bit too slow, I can just increase the amount of times that it's rotating. So instead of 360, I'll double it and put 720. And because we're dividing it by the duration of the timeline, that 10 seconds, it should be a perfect seamless loop. And to add this composition to the render queue, select either the composition panel or the timeline panel, go to the file menu, export, add to render queue, or use the keyboard shortcut Command or Control M. The key when exporting with transparency is the output module. And a great shortcut is to click this little drop-down menu for the quick menu. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to use this high quality with alpha preset. If you are a Windows user, the alternative to use is lossless with alpha. Then I'll click on the link to open up the output module settings. The key here is the format should be QuickTime, and for video output, the channels should be RGB plus alpha. RGB plus alpha says you want to export the color information, so that's in the RGB channels, and export the alpha channel information. And alpha channels hold the transparency information, so you want to export both. Now, if you chose the format, let's say H.264, which is very common when you're exporting videos, when I go to the channels dropdown, you'll see the RGB plus alpha is not available. I'm going to cancel out of this dialog box, and I just want to point out the difference between this high quality with alpha preset and the lossless with alpha. They both use the QuickTime format, and the channels are RGB plus alpha. The difference is the high res with alpha preset, which is Mac friendly, uses the Apple ProRes 4444 video codec. The lossless with alpha preset, which is Windows friendly, uses the Animation video codec. You can view the video codecs by clicking on Format Options, clicking the dropdown, and selecting the video codec you want. I'm on a Mac, so I'll select the high quality with alpha preset, confirm the settings look good, and then click OK. Then go to Output to name the file and set the destination where I want to render it to. So I'll click on this not yet specified, name the file, I'll choose my desktop as the destination, then click Save. And to export or render this composition, first I'm going to turn down the volume on my computer so I don't get scared, then I'm going to click on the render button. You see the progress bar, we can twirl that open for more information. When I go to my desktop, there is the exported or rendered file. If I tap the spacebar to preview, we have ourselves an animation with a transparent background. The black that you are seeing is indicating the transparency. And we can test or confirm that we exported this with a transparent background or with the alpha channel by just overlaying this onto some footage. I'll drag the rendered file into the project panel. Then I'll select the file in the project panel and drag it right on the composition window. I can tap S for scale to resize the logo, tap the spacebar, and I can confirm that we have an animation with a transparent background or with the alpha channel. And now I will show you how you can export a composition with transparency or with the alpha channel using Adobe Media Encoder. With the composition panel selected, you can go to File, Export, Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue. You can also go to the Composition menu and choose Add to Adobe Media Encoder Queue, or if you are in the Render queue, you can also just click on the button Queue in AME. Remember, AME stands for Adobe Media Encoder. Now in the Render queue, you should see the composition that you just exported. Now we could click on the format or the preset and manually enter in the settings, but I'm just going to go to the Preset Browser panel. If you don't see that, go to Window, Preset Browser. I'll click inside the search field. I'm just going to type out Alpha, A-L-P-H-A, and there I'm going to select the Alpha ProRes 444 with Alpha QuickTime. And this is the exact same preset as the high quality with Alpha from the render queue. I can select it and just drag it right onto this output. I'll click Output File, give it a name. I'll call this, save it to my desktop, click Save. And to recreate this lossless with alpha, I'll jump back into Adobe Media Encoder. I'm just going to duplicate this output. I can click on this icon to duplicate. I can click Add Output. I can right click and choose Duplicate, or just use the keyboard shortcut Command or Control D. I'll click on the link to open up the settings. I'll go to Video Codec. We'll change it from Apple ProRes 444 to Animation. I'm then going to scroll down to where it says Depth and tick the box to make sure that we include the alpha channel. Click OK. And if you want to export an animated GIF that just loops forever, we'll select one of the outputs, duplicate, Command or Control D. I'm going to go to the preset browser again and do a search for GIF, GIF. Make sure you select the GIF with transparency. I'm going to drag it onto the output. So now we have all the formatting set up. Let's just make sure the output files are being saved to the location that we want. So I'll save this to the desktop, click Save. I'll click on the second one here, Animation, save it to the desktop. We'll click on this last one. You can see that .gif. Click Save. And to render everything, you're going to click on the green play icon to start the queue. We can see the progress bar. We can see the progress bars next to each. The status will turn to done. You'll see the little green check mark when everything is done. I'll go to the desktop, and there are the 3 rendered files. I'll press Command-I to bring up the info. So this first one here, this is the QuickTime with the Apple ProRes 444. This is the format that I recommend for Mac users. I just need to click play since this is a video file. The one in the middle is an animated GIF, so it's going to animate automatically and just spin forever and ever. And this last one where you don't see a preview, this is the QuickTime with the animation codec. This is the one that I recommend for Windows users. Mac users, you will not get a preview, but it will work in After Effects. And to test them out, I'm going to drag them into the project panel. I'll drag them onto that photo. And just space them out a little bit so we can see. Tap the spacebar. Pretty cool, huh? If you want to re-render this, you can right-click and reset any of the individual outputs. You can select the top group, right-click, reset, or if you want to remove, you can click the minus to remove, or just tap the delete key. You are now a pro at rendering and exporting in both RenderQ and Adobe Media Encoder, and now you know how you can export compositions and animations with an alpha channel or with transparency, which is really useful if you want to create things like lower thirds or text animations or graphics that you can place onto other footage. And now you can also create animated GIFs exporting using Adobe Media Encoder. And who doesn't love an animated GIF? The next lesson, you're going to do it on your own and just practice what you've learned so far.